the red light came on. Okay, I'm going to sit here a little closer. I'm going to do an interview with Mom, and it's probably going to be a whole series of interviews that are going to take place in different aspects of her life. And as in all my interviews, I start with the beginning, and the beginning we'll start with your father, his name, and your mother and her name, and where they came from, and if they had any brothers and sisters that you know of. Let's start with your dad. Your dad's name was?
Jan Bonska.
Okay. And? John Baska.
Yeah, John Baska.
Do you have a middle name?
No.
No middle.
No middle name.
Okay.
He came from Poland.
Okay.
And from Tarnobrzeg, as far as I can remember, or my father never talks much, so I don't know too much about my father.
Okay. Did he have any brothers and
yes,
sisters?
He had a brother, Walter, Valente, Baska. He lived on Pacific, and he had a sister.
So he lived. His brothers, his family came over. All came over when he came over. His brothers.
No, I don't know who my father came home with. Came over to America with, but I think his brother was already here, and he came to his brother's family to live before he found a job.
Okay.
His parents never came over at all.
His parents stayed.
Yes, his parents stayed, and he had a half sister, so his mother must have been dead. He didn't talk anything about his parents, as far as I know, not one thing.
Not one thing, right?
Not one thing.
Well, obviously, when he came over here, and his brother came, he left relatives over there, yes?
Yes, he left his half-sister, and her name was Aniela Beyonce. No, Bonska.
And how is it spelled? The same way we spell it?
Exactly. B-A-S-K-A, only a long A.
Okay, now, when he came over here, you have any idea what year it was he came over?
Well, let's see. I was born in 1912, and they were here 2 years before I was born.
About 1910.
About 1910.
Okay. Now, was he Catholic?
Yes.
He was Catholic. When they came, let's say 1910.
He just came by himself.
And how old was he?
I don't know how old he was.
Yes. I mean, was he a teenager or was he a man?
No, I guess he was a man.
Well, hold it. If he came in 1910, and what year was he born?
Well, I would have to look at my family tree to tell you exactly.
Okay. Now, he came over and he left his parents there, but he never spoke about his parents.
No, he never spoke about his parents. But he was married. He married my mother there in Tarnobrzeg.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Okay,
and
so they were already married when they came over here.
Well, he left her there, and he didn't want her to come back. He didn't want her to come to America, and she didn't want to live with her stepfather.
Why didn't he want her to come?
I don't have any idea. They evidently didn't have too good a relationship.
Oh, really?
And
okay.
I figure that's the only reason. But she came over here with her brother.
Well, let's stay on your dad for a minute, okay? So he didn't talk about them, so you don't really know. It was a weird time in history because your parents came over from the old country, and yet there was going to be 2 wars fought, World War I and World War II, and they could have either been fighting with the Germans, or they could have been part of the Allies, or they could have been neither, or they could have been dead in the wars. Who knows? But there was no correspondence taking place that you know of.
No.
Okay. So he had a half sister.
Yes.
How did you happen to know that?
Well, I met her when I went to Poland. Well, now I'd
Did
be
you know
about
it?
15.
Did you know it before that?
Well, yes, my mother told me that he had a sister named Agnella there.
Okay, now, um, and he wasn't much of a talker or anything, was he?
No.
How old were you when he died?
Rosie was a baby when he died. She was the youngest one. And we lived on 33rd.
So, it must have been about 1940 then, when,
Yes.
when he died.
I think his war was in 41.
Yeah. And so if he came over here and he was already married in 1910, and 40, that's 30, he could have been, what, 55 or 60 years
He was
old?
55 when he
55.
died.
Okay. And he was abusive to your mother, wasn't he?
Well, he never beat on her, but he abused her with his tongue, cussed her.
And he was an alcoholic,
Yeah.
And he worked in the packing plant.
Yes. K.A. packing out.
What did he do there, do you know?
He pushed big trucks of meat from the cooler to the smokehouse where they smoked the hams and the tongues and the bacon and so on.
Okay.
Labor.
Okay, now, did he have, you think, any kind of relationship with the boys? I mean, with...
My brothers,
Yeah.
just his son,
Yeah.
not much.
Not much.
Not much. He always said that Stanley wasn't worth much, and he wanted my mother to promise him that she would leave him the home, like he knew that he was going to die first. And so when my mother passed away, I just automatically said, Stanley, your dad always wanted you to have a house, so you and Bessie take the house.
Okay. Now, your mother, she came over with him, and...
No, my mother...
Well, she came over, they were married, she came over later.
She came with her brother.
A couple years later?
I imagine.
Uncle Mike. She came with Uncle Mike. And, her maiden name was?
Rosalia. Like Rosalie.
Uncle Mike's last name was
No, Beyonce. Her name was Beyonce.
Okay, well, then that would have, her maiden name was Beyonce.
Yeah.
Well, who's this Rosiella?
Rosalia. Well, that's Rosalia. That's my mother's name, was Rosalia Beyonce.
That was her first name?
Yes, but my same as Rosie. But it was Rosalie. Rosalie.
Bobke's name was that?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember, I guess, gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did anybody call her that?
They all called her Rose. They called her Rose, but her name was Rosalia.
And so Rosie was named after her?
Yes, and after her grandfather, that's your grandfather, or your dad's father, and his name was Marion. So
Yeah.
she was named Marion Rose, after her grandparents.
Okay, now, her brother, Uncle Mike, came over with her. Is that the only brother she had, her sister?
No, here.
Yeah.
But she had see, Uncle Mike was a twin. His twin brother was here, but he went back before the war. He went back to Poland.
Right.
And my mother and dad, they had their bags all packed and
They were going to go too?
They were going to go
Why?
too, but the war broke out and they couldn't go back.
Why did they want to go? They just...
Well, they all came for the same reason. They all came here to make money and go back to their own country. They missed it there. They missed everybody there.
I see. Okay, keep talking.
And so my father, like I said, my mother and my Uncle Mike came over here, and they lived on 8th Street, just up the street from Gilmore. And that's where they lived there until they bought their house down on Gilmore. Uncle Mike bought, they had divided together with 3 houses and 2 lots.
That house in Gilmore where they
Two
live now?
lots. Yeah, there was 2 lots and 2 houses. So my Uncle Mike got 1 house and the lot, the first lot, and my mother got the second house and the lot right next to them, which is still a lot.
Was there a dump across the street when they bought it?
It wasn't a dump. It was a dump, but they didn't dump anything.
Go on, dog.
They,
You're in the way of the interview.
They, like, had a law against them dumping anything. But it was a big hole.
Now, did your mother talk about her parents at all?
Yes, I know about her parents. She had 6 brothers and sisters, and I think she was the 7th one.
Like she had like 3 brothers and 3 sisters, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she was the only one that came over?
She was the only one that came.
And did she correspond with them?
Yes, all the time.
She did. Now, was Bobby, she lived with us till I was 16. Was she a soft person, a warm person?
Yes, yes, she was. My mother was, but my dad was not. Cold person. At least to us. I've never seen my dad ever kiss my mother, and he never kissed.
And your mother was a beautiful woman.
Yeah, she was. She was.
Did your mother drink?
No, my mother didn't.
Was that unusual for the man, or it was probably common the man would drink and the woman wouldn't?
That's right. And all the men drank, but the women didn't.
Okay, so she had 6 brothers and 6 sisters. You know any of their names?
Well, I don't know if if it was exactly like that. She had a sister, Sophie, that died just recently, and my mother. That's it. Since I went to Poland, she was the only one alive, and she didn't tell me if she had any brothers, any sisters. Maybe there wasn't that many, but I think Mama said there were 7 of them. And they had Uncle Mike and her brother and his brother, his twin brother, and his twin brother was
So in your
Tom. Not Tom. I forgot what his twin brother's name was. But they had a sister. They had a brother named Tom and John. And the Tom and John and Mike, and I don't remember. They might have just been 4 brothers and her and 2 girls, like 4 sons and my mother and Sophie. But Sophie was the only one alive, and I never heard my mother talk about any other sisters. Whether they probably died in infancy. A lot of the children died in it.
Yeah. That's part of the reason I'm doing these interviews, because I mean, when I was talking with Fern and I didn't get it down, I'm hoping that and I'm not sure the importance of it, but when your grandmother or even your mother is talking about the grandparents, we know nothing about them, and
if it wasn't for my mother, I wouldn't know anything, because my father just absolutely never. He never had a conversation with me. He hardly ever spoke to me.
Huh. Okay, so now your mother, she also worked in the meat packing plant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what did she do? Do you know?
She worked in the sliced bacon. They took the bacon off of the fat of the pig.
Did they work hard?
Oh, awful hard, and it was cold, awful hard.
Okay, so she went to work probably about 1910, 12 down in meat packing.
No, she didn't. She didn't work when I was. See, I had a sister and 2 brothers. So she didn't.
You had
work.
a sister?
Yeah, I still have her picture.
You had a sister?
Yes, I had a sister, and she died when she was 2 years old.
gosh, I didn't know that either. And what was her name?
Genevieve.
Was she older or younger?
No, she was the youngest of the family. She came after Stanley.
Wow. What did she die of?
Well, my dad said that the doctor gave her, in teething, he gave her the wrong medicine. But she was sickly. I remember that. My sister was sickly.
Now, you were the oldest,
I
right?
was the oldest.
And she was the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so, and she would have died probably,
Well, see, I should.
you were born in what year?
1914.
So you were born 4 years after they got here.
No, 2 years.
You were born in this country, right?
Yes. I was born on Gilmore.
So they came over 1912, not 1910.
Yeah, well, but my mother was here 2 years before I was born.
Well, so they came, that's what I
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
They were over here 4 years
Yeah.
before you were born. And then, so your sister was probably born somewhere about 1915 or something.
Her grave was misplaced when they widened Highway
40?
parallel next 40. And I don't know what they did with her body.
You mean they lose graves, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. So there was 2 girls, and there's actually 2 girls and 2 boys.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And so your mother was working in the packing plant, and so she didn't really go to work until what?
Well, she worked at the Federal Reserve Bank. Before she worked as a cleaning janitor. And then when she got hurt her back there from carrying ladders, she never went back there. She got a job at Cudahy Packing House, and then my dad was working for Sheffield Steel, and he got laid off. They closed Sheffield Steel, and so he got a job at the Cudahy Packing House. That's how they both happened to be working there.
I see. Okay, now, so he was dead though before the flood, and your mother, after the flood, they closed it down. She never worked after that, did she? When did she, if he died in 19, do you know what year he died?
I've got it written down, son.
Well, the reason, if like he died in 45, okay, and then they closed the plant in 51, did she come to live with you and Dad as soon as he died? He did. She did. Okay.
No, she worked at the packing house for a while, but then it was.
Well,
she
let's see
must
here.
forget.
I remember in 51, was she living with us in the old house on 50 over, somehow or another,
She used to come there, but she never lived there. This is the first house she ever lived in with us.
okay, so he must have been killed about 1950, and she came to live with us out here on the farm. Okay. One of these days what we'll do is if you get the family tree written out, rather than to have to go through and explain this, we'll just video it, you can, and it'll have a record of it. So, you were born in what year?
1914.
1914.
December 11th.
And your brothers and sisters were born somewhere between 1914 and probably 1920 or 21.
About 2 years. I think Stanley and Walter 2 years apart or 3 years apart. Then I don't know how many years it was before they had the last one.
Okay. So that gives a little history of your parents, what you know of it, and we can add to that as we go along. What do you remember about your early life?
Well, about my early life, we used to live on 8th Street, and my dad worked at Sheffield Steel, And he'd get up early in the morning, and it'd take about 3 or 4 different transfers before he got to Sheffield Steel. It was down there, and it had a name for that, but I forgot now what it was. Where the Sheffield Steel.
Sugar Creek?
It's close to Sugar Creek, I think. But if you look where Armco Steel is, that's the address.
Now, when you were born 1914, did you have a happy childhood?
Yes, I had a happy childhood because of my mother. Yeah, we always had a Christmas tree. And I remember this, I went to St. Joseph's School, and there was 2 little rooms for the first grade and second grade. And then...
and do they teach in Polish or English?
Polish and English, because Polish history, Polish, English history, English and Polish. You had to do everything.
Sit back up there straight. You're getting me out of the camera. Okay.
And this little story you want me to tell you about my brother and I, my mother, when we lived on 8th Street, there was a pond, and they had a little rickety bridge to go across this pond to go to the restaurant. The John's were all outdoors.
Okay.
And right across the street was Bailey's lived there, and they bought Jones Funeral Parlor. And they used to have horses, and we used to go over there and steal the horse manure and put on our guards with everybody.
You had to steal the manure?
Well, they wouldn't let you take it. You had to steal it.
Well, now, was that on 8th Street, or was that down there on Gilmore?
No, it's on 8th Street. This is 8th Street that I'm talking about. And
there was a little pond and stuff?
It was a pond, small pond that went across it, like, I don't know whether it was a natural draw or what it was. And so one time Uncle Walt got a bicycle, and I wanted to ride the bicycle. He wouldn't let me ride the bicycle. Well, my mother was she had ducks because they had this water, so they had ducks and geese, and so she was going to clean a duck for dinner. And she had this scalding hot water in a pan, and Uncle Walt got mad at me because I wanted his bike, and Mom said I could ride it. And he shoved me into this hot water. Well, she ripped my clothes off and scalded my whole rear end. But at that time, my dad went down to the drugstore on Central, and they gave him Ungentine. And they put this Ungentine on well, it was bandage material, and they put it on. And I went to school. I had to take a pill with me because I couldn't sit till it healed up.
But you didn't scar, did you?
Yeah, I had one scar. And then I had the other one, I scarred, I think this one hand, but there's no scars there. So it's kind of taken over, it wore off. And I put a diaper over my head, and we had these round barrel stoves, and I got up too close. I burned my hand. They put the Ungentine on that too.
Now, once again, about your childhood, did you play with dolls and all that kind of?
Yes, I had dolls, and I had Shirley Temple curls. Mama would wrap them up in rags, and beautiful. She always dressed me real nice. She dressed us kids real nice.
Was she a seamstress at all?
Yes, she was a seamstress too. She made our clothes. She could take a pattern, you could show her a dress, and she could cut the pattern out.
Really?
She wasn't neat as Grandma Sigler was. Grandma Sigler was the neatest seamstress I've ever seen.
Yeah,
ever.
she was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and were you close to your brothers?
Yes, we were real close. Because Mama then it must have been after she quit. One, I don't remember whether it was before or after she went to the packing house. She worked for Federal Reserve Bank. So it was before she went to work at the Federal Reserve Bank as a cleaning lady, yeah. Then she went to work at the packing house, that's right. And I would go with her. We'd clean house together, and then I'd go with her every other week. We'd go on a streetcar to get her paycheck. And we'd look at the Hartsville window, and she would draw this picture of this dress that she was going to make me. And then we'd go to Jones and buy the fabric and come home, and she'd cut it out. The next day I'd be wearing the dress.
Wow.
She was really thing.
Were you close with your mother?
Really close, yeah. My mother used to read to me in Polish. And I didn't read much because I always had bad eyes. And she wanted to teach me to crochet, and I always told her that I couldn't see, so she taught Walt how to crochet. I always had bad eyes. And now I can read, really read.
I didn't know you had bad eyes.
I was born with bad eyes. I could never open my eyes. Every morning my mother would have to give me a clean wash rag with warm water because they were all pasted up together.
Huh. Okay. Now, you went to school where?
St. Joseph.
And how far did you go to school?
I graduated from the 8th grade, and then I went to Central Junior for the 9th grade because that was the middle school then. And that's as far as I went.
That was as far as you went. How come you quit?
Because I didn't want to go to Ward, but my Uncle Walt went to Ward. I didn't want to ride the streetcar over there. I wanted to go to work. Don't ask me what for. I started work when I was 13 years old.
Where?
Well, my first job was, the building is still there. It's just a little past 33rd Street where we lived in Kansas City, Missouri. I went with my lady friend. My girlfriend at that time, her name was Marie Holman, and her mother worked there. It was a laundry, and we worked in this laundry, shaking sheets. And we'd shake these sheets out and put them on long poles, and then they'd run them through the mangle.
Yeah. So you could have gone on to school, but you wanted to go to work.
Yes, I could have went to school, yes, but I...
Was the money they made, was it your money?
Yeah.
Did you pay any?
No, Mama just let me have it for my clothes and stuff. Well, I must have made something, probably $5.
Yeah, but then, I mean, you were still making money.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you were up to 13. Back in those days, they kept animals in town, though, didn't they? I mean, you have horses and cows, and I guess you could have pigs and whatever you wanted, right? Nobody ever said anything.
And then after a while, St. Margaret's Hospital was there, and they got a city ordinance that you couldn't have. You could have chickens, but you couldn't have hogs or cows or anything.
Because I remember the old chicken house up there on Central Avenue. It must have been about 11th Street. For some reason I remember going in there. It's kind of catty. 11th and Central was a chicken house on the south side of the
The
road.
only chicken house I know was on 13th Street where your dad...
But there was another one there. There was that one up on Central.
Probably was, because you bought the chickens and they dressed it for you right there.
Yeah, back in that time, you didn't know car. You didn't have a car, did you?
No.
I mean, your parents didn't have a car either.
They didn't have the phone. They didn't have a car. They had a house. It was almost paid for.
Did they have, there was running water and indoor
Oh, yeah.
plumbing?
We were the only ones that had the indoor plumbing. So when Mama went to work, everybody came and took a bath in the bathtub because they all had to take a bath in the tub. But we was the richest place there. So we had a bathtub.
Were you the richest because your dad and mom both worked, or because your dad had a good job, or?
Because they bought this house and it had the plumbing.
That's one.
No, they weren't.
Now, what kind of heat did it have? Coal heat?
Yes, coal heat, furnace. They had a furnace. They had everything. See, they had a modern home. One of the first ones that had a modern home.
But now, that was the one on Gilmore, though, right? What year did they move over to Gilmore from Main Street?
I don't know.
About how old were you? Do you remember?
Well, I was still going to St. Joseph's. So I must have been.
You must have been about 1925.
I think.
Between 25 and 30 when they moved over. Now, your neighbors and stuff, were the mostly Polish? Was it a Polish neighborhood?
Polish neighbors.
All Polish. Were they all Catholic?
Yes.
All Catholic. And did they all get along?
Yeah, they got along.
I mean, was there a sense of neighborhood you think different than?
Well, they were kind of close. If your relatives, our relatives lived on Pacific. That was my Uncle Willie, my father's brother. So we were friendly with them, and I was friendly with Uncle Mike and Miesbach. Yeah, there were a few, but you usually had. There was, like groups of families that came.
Do you remember the interurbans at all? You know what the interurbans were, where you could take a trolley ride to St. Joe or to...
Yeah, there's an interurban going right through Cerny, going to Leavenworth. Yes, I rode that many a time. We used to catch it at Full Park then. You know where the Full Park is?
Sure.
Well, that's where we got the interurban to go.
And what would you take? You'd go to Leavenworth or something?
We'd just go for Leavenworth for a ride, and then we'd have to pay again and come back home. It's for entertainment.
Yeah, you know, all the people that I talked to from your era, especially that lived here in Kansas City, when you think about the interurban and how it worked, I mean, it was really more convenient than what we have today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, it was mass transit at its best, really, wasn't it?
Not only do I remember the interurbans, I remember the electric trains, electric streetcars, and streetcars.
I remember those, but the interurban must have gone out of, what, in the 40s?
I don't know when they went out, but they came out. The tracks were still here when we moved here.
They were?
Yeah, Mr. Dietrich bought that piece of ground, right? You know where Dietrich is?
Yeah.
Right across the street is where the interurbans were.
There were Whittier's house went through there.
Yeah.
And when we first came out here, there was tracks through there?
Yeah. And they removed all the tracks and built the homes. Mr.
Wow.
Dietrich owned all that.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, you weren't very old when you were here.
No.
You was more interested in horses first, and then girls.
Well, you know, but then you get interested in girls till later. Okay, and so you,
Are you kidding? Listen, in the 7th grade at Christ the King, you guys had the wildest party that they ever even have now. And that's what Monsignor said. There was the partiest bunch of kids that landed at Christ the King.
okay, so, you went to work in a laundry when you were 13. What, you worked there a couple of years or a year? Or?
See, right away, the lamp infected my eyes. And then I had eye treatment. I might have worked there for 2 or 3 months.
Where'd you go from there?
And went from there. I really don't know where I went. Oh yeah, I went to work at Luce's. Well, listen, can I see if that movie's on?
Nope, we're doing an interview here, and
Well, I could be talking here till morning.
that's the idea.
I'm gonna kill you. I should have told you I wasn't going to interview you.
How come?
Well, because, well, I worked for Liz Trunk Company. And I used to paste the linings into the suitcases. What time do you have?
8 o'clock. What time does it come on?
8. It's 7, not 8.
7 o'clock, yeah. What time does it come
Well,
on?
I don't know if it comes on 7 or 8. If it comes on...
We'll put it on pause here.
All right, put it on pause and we'll...
Okay. We were talking about you're working, and
I worked at Loose Back. After Luce's, I worked at Loose Packwood. It was. I still think it's Loose Packwood now.
what is that?
But it's a luggage company. They make luggage. At least they used to sell it over there on Walnut in Kansas City, Missouri. But now it's probably nationwide. But it's changed. I'm sure it's changed name. After Loose. That's the thing. What?
So how old were you? 16, 17 when you were working
I
there?
was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got a job in North Kansas City in the beanery. I worked in the bean factory. I picked out rocks out of the bean, out of Navy bean. And that's the truth. And after, when they shut down, I got a job at Percy Ken. Bag was next door at Percy Ken Bag Factory. And I think I was 16 when I started working there. And I worked there until I got married.
What kind of bags?
It was burlap and sugar, white bags and burlap bags. Sugar and flour and bran and oats and stuff like that. Whatever that order they got.
Right. And
And they're still, it's still in existence there in Sheffield, but Sheffield somewhere.
okay. And you worked there until you got married. And you got married when you were how old?
I was 20 when I got married.
You were an old lady almost in
Yeah.
those days.
That's right. And if your dad hadn't married me, but the time I was December, we got married in September. In December I was 21. I would have been an old maid, and he was 20.
You were 20. Okay. You remember the first time you ever saw my dad?
Seen your dad?
Yeah.
Plain as day. In 1933, I met him at the at the El Torreon Ballroom on New Year's Eve.
Did you have a date?
No, I went there with my girlfriend, and he asked me for a dance, and so I danced with him. And he brought a date, and he was mad at his girlfriend, and her and I had on exactly the same kind of dresses on it. Her cape was white fur, and mine had a little black fur on it, about this wide. And he said to me, what is your name? And I said, my name is Cecilia. And I said, well, what's your name? And he said, Myron. I said, your name's not Cecilia. I said, yes, I told you my name was Cecilia. He said, no, I'm changing your name.
The first time you ever met?
First time I ever met him. I'm changing your name to what? Sally. And so he said, well, how about a date? And I said, I don't have any dates lined up, and I don't go on dates. I usually just go dancing with my girlfriend. He whips out a little black book. Michael had one exactly like it the other day when he was writing his dates. I said, that's been all those years, and I said, my boyfriend had a little black book just like that. And looked in this little black book. He said, well, I'm booked up for 2 weeks. I said, well, good. And he says, I'll give you a call after 2 weeks. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I don't have a phone. Well, where do you live? And I said, well, I live on 7th and 766 Gilmore. So the next night, I was home taking a bath, and somebody knocked at the door, and Uncle Walt answered the door. And after I got out of the bathtub, I said, well, who was it? He was some guy looking for some girl named Sally. I told him that nobody but the name of Sally lived here. And I laughed, and Walt said, what are you laughing about? I said, well, that yank, he said, told me he was booked up for 2 weeks, and he said, well, what's he at? Your name's not Cecilia, Sally, what's he looking for you? And he said, well, he changed my name to Cecilia, and we laughed about it.
Okay.
That's the first time I ever laid eyes on that, the boy.
So when did he come back?
Came back the next night. Well, I opened the door the next night. Or Walt, I don't know who, and Walt. So he said, well, here's this boy that was looking for you yesterday. And so I said, well, why did you change my name to Sally? He said, well, I'll have to tell you the story behind it. And I said, well, what's the story behind it? My name is Cecilia, it's not Sally. So he said, well, when I just graduated from high school, and the girl that sat in front of me, her name was Cecilia, and she had a dirty neck. She never washed her neck. God, what a gem. And he says, I can't stand to call you Cecilia because it reminds me of that girl with the dirty neck. So Cecilia.
Did he call you Sally then?
Everybody, my mother, everybody called me Sally.
From then on?
Yeah, from then on.
Amazing.
I always washed my neck really good.
So how long did you date?
We just dated from New Year's Eve until we got married in September.
Not quite a year.
Not quite a year.
Was it love at first sight?
Yeah.
It was, huh?
Well, it must have been. He didn't have any reason to marry me. I wasn't pregnant, and I was a virgin. And his father, and see, he took instructions that he wasn't going to get to be a Catholic, but he trapped himself into it. But the Siglers hated the Catholics.
But if Grandpa Sigler was a Catholic, then why did...
Grandpa Sigler's father was a Catholic.
That's right.
But Grandma Sigler never knew it. Byron's great-grandmother didn't know it. Or whoever she was to him, the one that was dead. I've got her picture out there, too.
But they didn't like Catholics.
And they were buying coal from, because they lived in Argentina. They were cooking and heating with coal. And this guy that they were buying coal from was Catholic. And finally, they quit buying
Coal just because this guy was a Catholic? Boy.
And Baptists, my God, they hated Catholics with a passion. Not like it is now, son. And so after your dad was going to turn Catholic and going to be baptized, and he told his dad, and he said, well, just don't tell Grandma Sigler, that's his mother. Just don't tell Grandma Sigler that she's deaf and she won't know the difference anyway, but she taught him the Bible and everything that he knew was Grandma Sigler taught him. And he says, all of the Siglers hate the Catholics. But Sonny, I want you to know one thing. If you're going to marry this Catholic girl, I want you to worship together, not separate. So and of course, he had already been baptized 4 or 5 times because every time he went with the girl, he got baptized in her religion. He was a religious boy.
Now, did you have a big wedding?
Yes, we had a big wedding. It was in my
Didn't all the
house.
Siglers come and know that you
Yes, they came and the aunts sat on the front porch where where Aunt Bessie lives, like this. Where in the heck did he ever meet this woman that he married? They're the wildest bunch of people they ever knew. They all drank, they all danced, and of course they didn't dance and they didn't drink. They didn't even drink soda pop.
You did?
And they said, "We'll wonder how long this is going to last." Well, it lasted 54 years.
But Dad danced. I mean, evidently.
Yes, he was a black sheep of the family. He drank. He smoked marijuana.
He did?
Yes.
Back then?
Back then.
How do you know he did?
Well, he told me. I said, "Well, you're not going to smoke any marijuana with me, but, when we get married, because I don't believe in it." And his cousin got him started.
Which one?
And Aunt Gay's son, and he committed suicide.
Right, I didn't know they did stuff like that back then.
They did. Musicians, and he ran around with all those musicians, and they all smoked. Once he came over there high to my house, I told him, I said, "You go on home." I said, "I'm not having anything to do with you." And he came crying. He said, "I'll never smoke it again." I don't know whether he did or not. Yeah. And your brother still smokes cigarettes. I think he doesn't have a brain. That's what Marshall said. He doesn't have a brain. He smokes his brain out with that marijuana.
Okay. Now, so you dated for about 10 months and you got married. Was he working at the time you dated?
Well, he was working for Dr. Brown and was learning the trade. And
He kind of sounds a little bit like maybe like Michael, kind of a that kind of.
I think I think Michael is going to be a success because he has that determination. Like I always tell Mike that. I always tell him that. I said, I told Mark, his father, the same thing. I said, "Mike is going to be the most successful in your family. He might be the most successful grandkid that I've got, because he has that determination." Just exactly like that. Oh, if you listen to his story and my story is the same thing.
Okay, so he was working for Dr. Brown.
Yeah.
And then the story goes that he decided to start his own business.
Well, because he asked Dr. Brown for a raise. He said, "I'm married now, and my wife's expecting a baby, and I can't live on $5 a week." That's what he was paying him, $5 a week, and doing his lab work besides. And old Brown said, you're fighting a hand that fed you." And Myron said, "I love you, and I love the dental laboratory work. I'm going to be a dental laboratory man. If that's the last thing I do." But he said, "I cannot live on $5 a week. I've got to have more money."
No.
And so he started his own lab there on 16th Street. And, in the basement. Didn't have any money. And he said, we had to buy a delivery car. So all my life, I saved my money. I had $250. And he told everybody, I married a rich girl. She had enough money to buy us our first car, and we never bought our car on time. All the time we were married, we always had the money first.
Okay. So, how long after you got married was Dolores born?
A year, exactly.
A year. Obviously, my dad was so much different than your father.
My father said he was the most worthless human being to me. most worthless human being. How could you marry anybody? Why didn't you marry a policeman? Get him mounted, mount to hell of beans. Yeah, this boy is not gonna, he's just a kid, he doesn't know anything. But if he goes to the beer joint, where he was drinking, he praised him to high heavens. I've got the best son-in-law, he's gonna be rich, and See, the Baskets used to tell me, Johnny Basket used to tell me that's the beer joint he used to go to. Yeah.
But Dad was totally different than your father.
Oh my God, your dad was totally different. Your dad had used perfect, he used good English, he was a gentleman, he was a lover.
He had much of a temper?
Who?
Grandpa, Dad.
But if he really got mad, it's too bad. He fought till the last dog.
Did he fight much when he was?
Well, when his mother and father separated, he fought everybody in Argentina. They said he was going to end up in the penitentiary because he was so belligerent and so full of hate because his parents got a divorce. Yes. Some guy right here, when I was selling fruit, came and he said, Sigler, he said, I used to have an insurance man collected insurance, prudential insurance for me. I said, yeah, that's my father-in-law. Well, whatever happened to that worthless son of his? Is he in the penitentiary? I said, that worthless son owns this house and this orchard, and he's my husband. And man, he didn't even give that barn was full of people. And they all laughed at, well, you really told him. And he left without even buying anything. He was so embarrassed.
So, now did your mother like Dad?
He loved your dad loved my mother. He said if I didn't have a mother, I would claim her to be my mother. He really loved my mother. She's the best thing that ever happened to me to marry you, and your mother is so good. Yeah, he really loved
So he got along with her?
Oh, yeah. I don't think they ever had a cross word.
Who was the boss?
Well, your dad. Everybody said, all the kids said, well, Mother's the boss, and Bobby used to say, yeah, she's the boss of how thick sliced lunch can.
No, but I mean between Bobby and him, who was the boss?
Oh, your dad was always the boss.
But his dad was the boss.
Yeah. His dad was the boss. He was exactly like his dad. Yeah, when he left home because Fern was so mean to him, and his dad, he was gone a week, and his dad called Fern. He said, Fern, I'm telling you one time, he said, you don't have that boy back here in this house when I come home this evening. You pack your clothes and leave. My kids come first. You're second. That was it.
But Grandpa was a lot more of a disciplinarian than Dad. Dad was Grandpa Sigler was stern. I mean,
Yeah.
but he was, I guess in that time you had to kind of know them a little bit. They all had the kind of hard exterior, but they weren't really that way.
Well, they held grudges. Those women, all his sisters, God, they held grudges. They held grudges.
Well, how did you get along with Grandpa?
Grandpa Sigler?
Yeah.
I got along with him fine. Fine.
How did you get along with Fern?
Well, at first I wouldn't go in their house because I was scared. I was afraid of her. She was such a bitch.
Fern was?
If he brought somebody in that house, I was timid. I was so timid, and I would sit in the car. And so Grandpa said, now why is your girlfriend, why does she always sit in the car? Why doesn't she come in this house? Does she think she's too good or what? He said, no, she's scared of Fernie. They took Fernie in. And he says, Fernie, I want you to go invite that girl into this house. I thought she'd hate me, but we were friends. We were good friends. No, she,
How did Bernie get along with Grandpa's sisters?
oh, listen, the Siglers had AIDS of ours. She was concerned, you know, that she wouldn't have anything to do with them. They were quarrelsome. They fought against.
The Sigler girls did?
And Grandma Larson, and Grandpa's first husband, wife, they fought like cats and dogs. Just like cats and dogs. They would tell each other if somebody didn't separate.
You mean the Sigler sisters and Grandma Larson? There was Pearl and Cora and...
No, and all your dad ever talked about, he wanted this farm so bad because all he ever talked about was going to Aunt Ruby's farm in Nebraska,
right,
and Uncle Bill's. Right. And she was so sweet and so kind and so good. And Aunt May, Aunt Pearl was nice.
Sweet.
Yeah, sweet. And so was Aunt Gay. Those two.
Three.
The ones that fought was Cora and May. They fought.
But they were a little eccentric too, weren't they? I mean, they weren't really.
Well, May was eccentric, but not Cora. She says, and May would get her mad, and start the fight. And see, Cora was Sonny's mother, Sonny Green.
Okay, so we got you up to where you're married now. Let's go over on the dad's side of the family, and we'll kind of take us up through a little of that if we can, and then we'll break for your movie. Did Dad talk about his grandparents at all?
Well, his mother, she was there. She lived to be 93. But his father died. They all seem like they died at 70 or 72. His grandfather was mowing the grass with a lawnmower and sat down and died. Kind of like
Dad's grandfather.
That's the father. The father wasn't mowing the grass, but he worked that day.
No. But you never knew him.
No, he was gone.
He was gone. But
his grandmother was there.
But his grandmother was there, okay, and his father was there.
She knew Rosie.
She did?
Mm-hmm. She was Rosie was just a little baby.
Okay, but great-grandpa Sigler died when he was about 72, mowing the yard. Mm-hmm. But you never met him, and no one really gave you any kind of background on him or anything.
And whether he was Catholic or not, it was just the girls. And Aunt May and Aunt Cora.
No, well, Susan told me she used to go to church with him.
Well, maybe she did.
No, I mean, she was very clear on that. Over in Argentina on the hill, I guess that I was asking her some of the same things I am, and she said he was a real sweet person, but the old lady was a bulldog, everybody says. But does anyone know how they actually spelled their name when they came from Germany?
No.
Now, no one knows how he spelled their name, but my guess is that they were Jewish. And once again, maybe they were German. It's probably not that big of a deal, but there was this...
Because the Sigler, S-I-G-L-E-R, is a Jewish name. Z-I-G-L-E-R is a German name.
So the S is German, a Jewish name? Now, I understand that Sonny, who is Cora's son, is Sonny alive?
I think so.
Sonny Grant. He had the lab, right, in Topeka or something? I wonder if he knows anything about great-grandpa. somebody told me that one time Cora had all the family records.
May had them all, and if she gave them to Cora, that's news to me. And if Cora had them, they had a fire, and Roderick wouldn't let them have it. Sonny don't even have a picture of his mother, because he had them all, and he wouldn't give them to Sonny. And then the house caught on fire, and everything burned. It was at Cora's house.
Yeah, up here on 67th Street. I used to go over and visit him all the time.
No.
He was a weird one. But, you know, I really like the old guy. I mean, I used to go visit him, and I guess it's just how much interest you take in people sometimes, you know. But obviously, he was one of the oddest human beings I've ever met.
Yeah, he made her ride in those hearses.
Yeah. He used to hold electrical wires and light the light bulb and all that stuff like that. He was he was a wiry little old guy. Okay, so on Dad's side there, did his father have any brothers or sisters? Well, sure he did. Okay, his father had the oldest would have been who? No, of Grandpa Sigler's brothers and sisters.
Oh, I have to get the picture. Well, I think Aunt Ruby was the oldest.
Right.
And then Aunt Gay, and then Pearl. No, Aunt Pearl was the oldest. And then after Pearl was Aunt Ruby, and Gay, and May, and Aunt Cora. 5. There was 5 sisters. 5 sisters. Did you listen to what I say?
Yeah.
See, Pearl was the oldest, and then Ruby, and Gay, May, and Cora. I knew them all, but I didn't know Aunt Ruby because she died in an accident, in that car accident. Well, your dad was in too.
Yeah. Now, were you? There was really only a couple of cousins though. There was Lee and Roseman.
Yeah. Well, and Helen.
Oh,
Helen Mize, Aunt Gay's 2 children, and Buster that I said commit suicide.
Are any of them alive?
No. Helen died, and Buster committed suicide. There was just the 2 of them.
And then there was Peggy Joe.
That's all.
And then Cora's
Sonny.
So there was really 4. But some of the sisters never had any children.
Well, May never got married because she was 50 or 60 years old. She couldn't have any. And why Aunt Pearl? Aunt Pearl had more than just Rosamond. She had Charles.
She was married before?
No, but Rosamond and Aunt Pearl was mother and daughter.
Well, of course.
Well, you'll have to ask.
So Rosamond has a brother and sister, or half brother and sister?
No, just brother and sister. But her brother, I think it was her brother, was watching a parade in Sioux City, and he fell out of the window. His watch fell, dropped out of his pocket. He's leaning over, and his watch dropped out of his pocket. He ran to grab his watch, and it fell out.
That would have been Rosamond's brother.
Rosamond's brother. She just 3 weeks ago, I knew it, but she didn't either. I knew something like that. Now, how many brothers and sisters with us in that family? I don't know.
So she had other brothers and sisters? You don't know.
No.
Now her name was Johnson, right?
Peggy Jo's name.
Peggy Jo. Okay, Peggy Jo.
But she was never married. She was an illegitimate child.
Peggy Jo was illegitimate. How did they get the name? They just give it the father's name?
I guess. She knew who she had it by.
She was married then. She was married 4 times.
Several times. She was married to Noel.
Yeah.
Well, Knowles was the first guy she was ever married to. Then she married Galloway because she was never married to Peyton Joseph.
Right, that was Johnson, Knowles, and Galloway.
It's Sigler for the record, the three.
But back at those times, was that really something?
Oh yeah, it was a disgrace. Well, Sigler's a dying disgrace. I had seven people in my kids in my family that were pregnant before they got married.
Yeah, but back then it was.
Oh yeah, back then. Yeah, see, that's the reason your dad was so upset when his father and mother got the divorce. Well, at that time when we got married, it was 60 years. It was just terrible disgrace for to get a divorce.
They were already divorced a long time when you.
Oh yeah, she was already married to Ben, and Nadine was 10, 12 years old.
How'd you get along with her?
With Nadine?
No, with.
Grandma Larson?
Yeah.
She the only one that called me Cecilia. She never would call me Sally.
How'd you get along with her?
Just fine.
She was kind of odd too, wasn't she? Or
Well, she wasn't odd. She was so prissy. She just thought she was the most beautiful person in the world. She was so vain.
she wasn't.
Yeah, vain.
Grandpa Sigler and her didn't get along at all, did they?
And she ran off and got married. Why he married her? She was only 15 years old when he married her.
Really? How old was he?
I imagine he was about 20.
So she was 15, huh?
I don't know how old he was. I forgot to ask him. Yeah.
We're on the video here. We're competing with a soap opera or something Grandma's wanting to watch tonight. So Grandpa Sigler, he had.
Danielle Steele's Secrets.
Sounds like Victoria's Secrets to me, but anyway. So he had the sisters, and when he got married, he must have got married back.
Well, if you want to see great grandma's pictures, I've got it right there on the drain board. If you want to see Fernie's pictures, she's there with Grandpa, and if you want to see her child.
I saw those earlier, and once again I made video on. But he got married to Grandpa. If he was 20, he was probably, let's see here, I'm trying to remember. He was born about 1890, so he must have got married about 1910, about the same time your parents got married. How did Grandpa Sigler and your father get along?
I don't think they probably. My dad spoke Polish. He spoke English.
Okay, what about your mother then, Grandpa Sigler?
They got along fine, but she didn't speak much either. Just a little.
So she didn't speak much conversation, or she didn't speak much English?
She didn't speak much English, and conversation very little, but she knew a lot of words from kids.
But your dad was, my dad was able to communicate with her.
Oh, yeah.
And so Grandpa...
Nice boxer and church all stuff like that.
Okay, so Grandpa Sigler got married to Grandma Sigler, Grandma Larson, back in approximately 1910. And my dad was born, and of course, the twins.
Were born 7 years after me.
Do you know anything about her parents? I know that her maiden name was Brown, and her dad's name was Lafayette Brown. Wasn't he supposedly a drummer boy in the Civil War?
Yeah, but he was dead already, but I knew her mother. I met her mother.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah. I knew her mother. I didn't know when she died. She died after baby Jean died.
Really? Baby Jean, the Fern's baby.
Yeah, see, our Jean was named after her grandpa's and Fern's baby. baby Jean. His name was Myron Eugene, your brother's
Do you have
name.
any idea what nationality she was?
Yeah, I've got it written down in
She was
there.
French, wasn't she? Or French and something else? Lafayette Brown would have to be
Yeah.
someone that way. And of course, you know, growing up in the times and everything was going on, you didn't really talk anything about the Civil War or any of that kind of stuff.
No, we had too many wars and too many heartaches. I wasn't interested in that. Besides that, you know, a year after I was married, we started having children, and I had enough problems just taking care of the kids.
Okay, so now we'll shoot a picture of the family tree of the Siglers, and we'll move on. So there was it was kind of a disgrace because he turned Catholic and married a Catholic girl, started his own business there in Argentine, and a year later, Dolores was born.
I didn't disgrace anybody.
No, I didn't say that.
No, I'm just laughing. No, I laugh at my girls. I says, I didn't disgrace anybody. You guys all disgraced me.
What do you mean?
Well, Dolores had to get married. Pat had to get married. Rosie didn't. Sally didn't. Lizzie didn't the first time. The second time she did.
What happened between those years when you got married and then in the 50s when, I mean, it was pretty risky back in the 50s when Dolores and Pat had to get married. No one knew that Dolores had to get married.
No, I'll tell you the truth, son. It hadn't been too many years that I found out that I realized that she was pregnant. I didn't know.
But it was a little, I mean, everybody liked Ray,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
on the Pat side, everybody questioned Mike just because.
Because he was mean. He was so mean to her. He was so mean to her. He caused her to have a nervous breakdown.
Think so, huh?
I know. Beat on her and everything else.
Beat on?
Yeah. One time he beat on her and Dad went down there to that little house and dragged him out and said, if I ever catch you beating on my daughter again, I'm going to kill you. And he beat the crap out of Mike, and Mike never raised his hand. Never raised his hand. And then Grandpa, of course, went down there and apologized.
So he whooped on him pretty good?
Yeah, he was coming good. No, your dad didn't wait. And he says, that's one thing, he says, I was married to him 54 years. I imagine sometimes he'd like to beat the shit out of me, but he never, ever touched me. Never. He would just go leave.
Did Dad drink?
No, he was a drinker just like I am. One drink, and that's it.
It's kind of interesting because you say no, but I remember one time.
Oh, yeah, I imagine he used to, when he was younger, drink.
I remember him coming home one night kicking a hole through the door when we lived over on 33rd
Well, you know
Street.
why he did that? Because I went to town and left him with you to take care of you while I went to town.
No wonder he kicked a hole in the door.
Yeah, he was so mad. Oh, he reminds me of Sigler. To the T. To the T.
Really?
Yes, exactly.
Dad and Skyler?
Yes, he write out the orders. He gives a list of orders, and well, we both laughed about it because we married the same kind of people. Good-hearted.
Well, there is some similarities in that Skyler is truly kind of a
He's a
city
homebody.
farmer, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't know enough. I mean, he can't change a spark plug. Neither could Dad, though. But they kind of perceive themselves as being farmers,
Yeah, city farmers.
city farmers.
But She couldn't marry anybody that was better to her than Scott. He makes money, and especially, well, see, he just got out of law school when they got married, and quit, and he just had, I didn't know that. Corky said it was only about 3 months that he had quit cold turkey drinking, because he was drinking like a said. And that's the reason it was so, well, you can imagine, after drinking and quitting and then having to get married, and well, that was more than, and she chased him good. She made up her mind she was going to marry an attorney, which is nothing.
Okay, well, that kind of takes us up. We're gonna take a break. So we got it up.
Yeah,
We got it. Hold it now. We got it up to Grandpa's family, and now you're starting your family. You kind of gloriously born. And we'll pick it up on 33rd Street the next interview. Okay?
That's good.
Now, wasn't that painful, was it?
Yeah, but see there, you got out of taking me to dinner, and I'm going to be hungry. So we have to go back now.
Yeah, we got to go back. I'm sorry. Well, give us something to.
Yeah.
Earlier, I thought that I was recording, and I wasn't, and we covered about 10 minutes, and we can go back. But this is a continuation of the tape that I started during the summer, and it's now December the 20th, and I'm sorry, December the 18th, and I'm looking out the back window of Granny's house at the old farmhouse when we first moved out here, and it's kind of easy to do an interview in this setting because it isn't.
You can remember a lot of things.
You can remember a lot. And we were just discussing that just a few days ago was her 80th birthday. And
81st.
81st birthday. And how wonderful it was that all of her children called her Collect. And they call you Collect?
No,
Oh,
they
okay.
didn't call me Collect.
It was when Tom took you to dinner to JJ's, and he made you pay for it, right?
No, he didn't make me pay for it. Not my son, not my rich son, Tom.
Well, she got to go to the dinner last week. She went with Sky and Liz to the Gilbert Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
And she went with Tom to JJ's, and who else did you go with?
Well, I went with my grandsons and son-in-law, Jack Dinkle, and Tom and John Dinkle.
Oh, they came to him.
Yeah, they took me to that hibachi on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And then, who else took me out? I think that's all.
Did Tim?
Tim took me to lunch, and we went to Golden Knots for lunch. And so, and the rest of them all called me. Mark called me and sent me half a dozen of red roses, beautiful roses, and Dolores called me and sent me a subscription to a magazine that I like, Southwestern Southwestern, it was
Southwest Living?
Southwest Living. And the last one to call was Robert.
But everyone called.
Everyone called, yes.
Okay. Once again, as we, with the first portion of the tape, historically I kind of started with the great-grandparents and moved forward, and now we're going to start talking about each of the children, and we're going to start with Dolores. And what do you remember about Dolores when she was little, like maybe the first night when you came home?
Well, the first night.
You'd said earlier, though, that you'd had some health problems and stayed in the hospital.
13 days, and at first I was in a ward, and it was $35, but there was about 10 women in there, and Dr. Miller came and looked at me, and he said, well, you're going to have to take her out of here and put her in a private room. So they put me in a private room, and then the sister told Myron that, it cost $50 for 10 days in a private room.
$50 a day?
No, $50 for the whole amount. And he said, you have to pay that before we can release her. And said, Myron said, well, if I don't have the $50, what are you going to do, keep her? But anyway, somehow or another, he scraped up the $50 and he paid it. And I got to go home free. Not free, but for the $50. And then that night, she kept crying and crying and crying, and I just, she wouldn't cry as long as she was laying on my stomach, and I was laying in bed. Well, Grandpa, he tried to hold her on his stomach, and she just kept crying anyway. So then what did we do? The last time she fell off, she fell under the bed, and we had to get up, both of us had to get up and drag her out. So we got her out of there, and then Aunt Hazel came, and she came and helped us. And she said, well, let's put her in bed. And we said, well, we didn't have a bed because we were just too poor to buy a bed. And I don't know when we were going to buy this bed, but we didn't have the money to buy it at that time. So Hazel, she emptied out one of the dresser drawers and put some pillows in there and put her in Dolores in that little bed that was made out of the dresser drawer. And she went to sleep and slept the whole night, the rest of the night. And that was a big event for her and us too. And after that, we just got along fine. It wasn't too much longer till I was pregnant with Patty, so she didn't get to be the baby very long. And then we were a little better off when Patty was born. So we had a...
Liz just walked in and she's wanting to break up the interview. What is it that you want?
Just pause it.
Liz came and interfered with our interview, so we're back. We were talking about Dolores.
Dolores, well, I said she wasn't the baby very long because I think there's just about 15 months difference in their age. And then Patty came along.
Okay.
Dolores was a good student, and but she was mischievous. She was always in trouble with the nuns.
Mm.
And then at one point, they made her, put her in the basement, and she had, one thing about Dolores, she always entertained herself. So she found the sister's skates, and she put the skates on. She had a good time in the basement.
How old was she then?
Well, at that time, she was in she was at Redemptress, and she might have been in 4th or 5th grade. But she was always in trouble, but with the nuns about something, because she was so mischievous and so outgoing.
You remember, one of the things that I remember is her catching the house on fire.
Yes, she loved to read, and she still does. She goes to the library and gets a whole bunch of books, and she still loves to read. And then she had, that time, she had a candle, and her bedroom, her and Patty's bedroom was on the 3rd floor. And then she must have been at least in the 5th or 6th grade. And if a big wind came up and blew the curtain from the window onto her, onto that light, the candle,
Right.
and so it got the house on fire. But the firemen came and we got it out before it did too much damage, but it was mostly water damage.
You were saying that what was it she used to like to do?
She had a baby bottle up there, and she used to fill it up with soda pop, and she'd be drinking this bottle, baby bottle, and reading. So she'd probably kill me for telling the story, but it's the truth. And,
But you had to take that baby bottle away from her when she started high school?
Well, I don't remember. I think after the fire that did it. I think she quit doing it.
I see.
And she hated housework. And Patty was always cleaning house, but never got it finished. And Dolores, she always cleaned it. Her room was always spotless, but everything was under the bed.
Did they have separate bedrooms? Or
Yes, they had separate bedrooms, and the Grandpa put a bathtub in there, a bathroom, because that house had 6 bedrooms and it only had 1 bath on the second
It's had
floor.
6 bedrooms.
Well, we had 4, and then he added 2 more upstairs.
On the third floor?
So we had, yeah, he was, Grandpa was really a wonderful husband, and he entertained us, but he didn't throw his money around. He was, in a way, he was conservative, but he never saved any because somebody had come around that needed money, and he'd always give money away to his friends that were less fortunate than himself.
He was always that way?
Always like that.
But was he religious when he was younger?
He was religious in a way because his mother and father, they weren't religious, but his grandmother was religious, and she was deaf. She couldn't hear, but it would read lips. And she always read to him, and she always read the Bible to him, and he never did forget that. That was, his grandmother taught him the Bible, and he always remembered it, but more or less, he was always religious.
So Dolores was a pretty good student, though, too?
Yes, she was a good student, excellent student. And because I saved all her report cards, and I gave them all, so they couldn't say they were or they weren't, because it was in black and white, whatever the nuns had put down there, that's what they, and she was she was a good student. The only thing she wasn't very good, she was excellent in spelling and reading, but she couldn't add 2 and 2.
Mm.
And her dad was always teach her with a bunch of, he'd all get the matchbox out, and she couldn't tell right from left till after she was married. That's the truth. This is how she'd know if it was left. And the other one would be right.
But she'd have to check her hands, you
She'd
mean?
have to check her hands.
Mm.
Mhm. But she turned out to be a wonderful housekeeper. And she was married when she was just 17, and she's a wonderful cook, and she learned, well, girls first married, their first gift was a shower gift that I gave them. And each one of my daughters got a singer-song machine when they got married, and they all can sew. And
Did either Pat or Dolores want to go to college? Was that ever talked about
well,
at those times?
they never talked about it. Patty was disappointed because she didn't get to go to college. Dolores didn't seem much to care one way or another, and I didn't pay much attention to it because we sent them all to parochial schools and we paid all their tuition.
Mhm.
And after they went the tuition for Ward, that's where they all graduated
No,
from.
they graduated from Redemptorist.
No, because Jean transferred to Ward.
That's
when-
right. After Pat and Dolores graduated from Redemptorist.
Yes, that's right. Dolores and Pat graduated from Redemptorist. And Jean was the first one to
That's right.
graduate
Mhm.
from Ward. And it was just $25 a year to go to Ward. And if you had more than 3, if you had 3 going, the third one was free.
Yeah, but we were talking about Dolores and Pat at Redemptorist, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Was the tuition fairly similar there at Redemptorist?
Well, the tuition was, there really wasn't a tuition, but you had to pay, like a lot of the schools, the Catholic schools now, you had to donate so much to the church, and then that was the tuition.
I see.
And that was the same way with Christ the King, too.
Well, now, once again back with Dolores, she got married when she was 17 to Ray.
Mhm.
And, of course, I remember that very clearly. He was in the Air Force.
He
And
was
out,
MP.
out of Richards Goodbye. He was a handsome dude, wasn't he?
Mhm. Yeah, he was out of, and he was stationed down Fairfax then,
Oh,
because
is
he
that-
was military police.
Oh, I thought he was out at Richards Goodbye.
Well, he was, but then when they were on patrol duty, they were at down in Fairfax.
Was that during the Korean War or something? Or
Well,
was
yeah, the war was on, but I don't remember which war it was.
It had to have been the Korean War,
It
because it
had
was
to
in the
be.
50s.
Yeah.
Now, he was a delightful person.
Yes.
Even from the very beginning, he was a hard guy not to like, wasn't he?
That's right. Everybody loved Ray until the day he died. He was just a real nice person. And my mother, which was Dolores' grandmother, really liked Ray because he was Polish. And since we're Polish, we loved Ray. But he was such a likable person that you couldn't help but like him.
He spoke Polish fluently, didn't he?
Literally.
A little bit?
Not real. I guess he could have if his mother would have spoke Polish, but they didn't speak Polish.
He
His
understood.
Yes, he understood because his grandmother did.
Did-
She spoke to him in Polish.
Now, when she was 17 and she started dating Ray, were you in favor of that?
Well, at that time, girls were getting married when they were young. Not like
Did Dad
now.
like Ray?
Yes, you couldn't help but like. Yes, he loved Ray.
Now, it's kind of my understanding that Dad, when he was young, was far more of a disciplinarian
Yes.
than he was in, and he was pretty hard on Dolores and Pat, wasn't he?
He was hard. He had certain rules, and you had to be in before 12 o'clock, and you couldn't drink, and very few of the girls. excuse me. Very few of the girls smoked at that time.
But Dolores smoked, didn't she, or was it Pat that smoked?
Pat smoked the most. No, Dolores smoked very little, about like her dad, just occasionally.
Now, do you think that she got married at 17 because Dad was a disciplinarian, or do you think that she thought of him as being that way?
Well, no, just her and Ray. Ray was 9 years older, and he was ready to get married, but his parents were disappointed that he didn't marry somebody from Buffalo because they were in Buffalo, see. And so there's plenty of Polish girls here in Buffalo. You didn't have to go.
Were
to
his parents both alive at that time, or his dad was
No,
already dead? wasn't he?
his dad was already dead, but his sisters and his brothers and everybody thought that he should, and to marry such a young girl. They had never been away from home, so.
You remember how he met her?
Yes, they went to the U.S.
Odans?
ODANs, and as I said, he was stationed down Fairfax, so Dolores and Pat made a point of going down there, but Dad's lab was down there too, see? So they always said they was going down to see the father, but they was going down there to see the boys, the soldiers.
How long did they go together?
They went together, I really don't
Think it
know.
would have been a year?
Probably, close to a year.
Now, obviously, when she got married, you knew that she was going to go off to Buffalo and live with him.
No, he promised her that if he got a job, that he would stay in Kansas City. And they lived in the little house. And he didn't seem to be able to find a job to suit him here. So his brother-in-law was a milkman
Buffalo.
in Buffalo. So he went to Buffalo and he got this job that he kept until he died.
When she decided to move to Buffalo, was it hard on you?
Oh, it was, I cried and I cried. You'd think she was my only child, that we'd go. I I went to Buffalo to visit her, and she said she hated the farm. That's one of the reasons she got married. She hated the farm. And she said, when I leave here, I'm never coming back to the farm again. Well, when she got married, she was home 3 times that year. She missed the family and the farm. I guess mostly the family. We were really family oriented. So then if she wasn't visiting me, Grandma Basca and I would be, my mother, we'd be visiting her in Buffalo. And the Marlinskys really were good to her, and they taught her everything she knew, because Dolores didn't left so home. She knew how to do dishes, because we didn't have a dishwasher, and we had 15 people to feed in that family, so there was plenty of dishes to do.
She really kind of left though before the real work really started, didn't she?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, the real work started, because she left in probably 53? '53 or '54, and we moved in '51, so she was here for a couple of years.
Yes, but Dolores and Rosie used to go to the market. They the first ones. We were so poor, because just as soon as we moved to the farm, Grandpa lost his business, both of his businesses, his dental supply house and his dental laboratory, in the flood of '51. So that's when it all started. And Dolores and Rosie used to go to the market every day, and she was the only one that could drive, so, and the market was 38 and State, the farmer's market, and every night when she'd close up, and she'd come, and we'd still be in the barn sorting apples or peaches, and she'd plunk down the cash box, and she says, I did my duty for the day. I'm going home and go to bed. And you couldn't get her to help or anything. We'd beg her to help, or to help watch the younger children so we could go ahead and finish packing, but she would never help. But she was good at it. She was kind of like Roger. She did what you wanted her to do, but nothing more. Don't ask her to do another thing, and Roger was the same way.
What?
Yes. If you tell him to pick 10 bushel apples, he'd pick 10 bushel apples, but he would not pick 11.
Okay, so she went off to Buffalo, and it was your first child leaving home.
Home.
Mm-hmm.
It just broke my heart, but it didn't love Ray so much, it would have really been a catastrophe. But he was good to her, and his mother was a wonderful person. She says, now, Raymond, you took this girl from her mother and father, and you brought her clear across the country, and she's all alone here. Now, you have to be real good to her and teach her everything that she's supposed to know, and which he did. Then they moved, and then shortly after they moved, Patty got married.
How long after she moved to Patty get married?
Well, I don't know. I'll have to ask Patty how Patty would
Within
know.
a year, you think?
I wouldn't say for sure.
I think that one of the, and now Patty came along,
Mhm.
okay? 15 months after, there was nothing planned at that time. Those things just happened, right?
Yes.
And
Well, they were all rhythm babies, every one of them, but Grandpa's supposed to be this wonderful mathematician. He never let me figure out the days that we were supposed to abstain. He did all the figuring. And after Elizabeth was born, he said, well, I know what I did wrong. I didn't figure it's either at the beginning or at the end. And
well, this is the guy that was helping Dolores with her math too, right? Dad was good at math. Okay, Pat came along 15 months afterwards, and you were saying that she was really a good student.
yes, she was a good student. And Pat, I I had such a hard birth with Dolores, and they gave me so much medication. He wouldn't let them give me any medication at all.
Who's he, Dad?
What?
Who's he?
Grandpa.
Mm.
Your dad wouldn't let the nurses or the doctors give me any medication. And so Pat, Dr. Miller, just delivered some babies, and he was sleeping, and he told Dr. Peters, he was his assistant then, says, now you watch Mrs. Sigler, and I'm going to take a break. I'm going to sleep. It was during the night, and so he laid down, and the nurse came to visit, to look at me, and she says, oh, it'll be a little while yet. And she left the room, and Patty was born. And when the nurse came back, Pat was already born, but they didn't clip the cord. And by the time they got Dr. Peters came, he cut the cord, and then they woke up Dr. Miller. But Dr. Miller wouldn't take a fee because he said I wasn't there, and it was $35 for the whole thing. And
It's interesting how medicine's changed, hasn't it?
yes, that's right. And so, and Patty was a good baby, and she was a smart girl, and she loved to help me. She was always mother's helper. She wouldn't go to bed until I went to bed. And we always had a lot of work to do in the evening to get everything. Why? We always had so much work. Oh, we canned a lot. At that time, we canned a lot. And that's the reason we were busy. But Patty always stayed until everything was done, and then we'd both go to bed. So I always said that Patty would be my helper.
Now, you said in school that she was an absolute straight A student and had the highest grade point in her entire class. And she should have gotten a scholarship.
To go to Mount St. Scholastica. That's where the Redemptress was given the scholarship for. But because Mary Lou lived right next door to the convent and always would visit with the nuns and do favors for them and everything, they gave it to Mary Lou because they said,
Financially, she
yeah, that financially her father couldn't afford to send her. And so Pat was disappointed because she didn't get to go.
So, she didn't get the scholarship, and back on the farm, she was living on the farm, and I guess she must have met Mike about the same time as Dolores met Ray?
Just about, and she met Mike at Vasquez, at Stanley Vasquez's house, Stanley and Bess. They'd all go over there and drink every night, and Patty would go over there and drink with them, and then Patty got a lot of whippings, and she promised her dad she would never go back to Vasquez's house because it was bad influence on her, and that's one of the reasons why we never were real close to Stanley and his family, because they drank too much, and Dad didn't approve of that.
So Patty used to go down there and drink with them.
Mm-hmm. Drink and smoke, so she's a big smoker.
And that's where she met Mike too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's any secret in the family that Mike and was not as well liked as Ray. And that may have been part of the problem, that Ray was such a kind of lovable person, and Mike was, I think in Mike's own way, he was a nice guy, but he was too young, and he had a lot of baggage from his family that he carried forward.
And he didn't, he wasn't as good to Patty like Ray was to Dolores. Really downright mean to her, but that's the reason that the marriage didn't last.
And I know, we've talked a little bit about this, that Dad in his younger days was, he was a scrapper. And I think he made it pretty clear to his son-in-laws that they better take good care of his daughters there. He'd put a whooping on them. In fact, I think he may have put a whooping on Mike once, didn't he?
Yes, he did, but Mike never touched him, and Dad was so embarrassed about the whole thing that he went down there and apologized to him for beating on him.
Well, it probably was a good thing that he didn't fight back, because Dad, knowing him at that time, he was in his 30s, and he'd been a boxer, and he was a tough little sucker.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. A
But-
scrapper.
You know, I think when you make it a tape like this, and it's part of history, sometimes you have to talk about some of the things maybe that weren't so pleasant.
That's right.
But it was kind of the way that it was. I can remember, some of the first times that, that I met Mike, and Mike reminds me an awful lot of Michael Super, his son, in that he was a real athlete. I mean,
Yes.
he
Yes,
loved
was.
sports, and he used to be able to throw a spiral on a football a quarter of a mile. And I remember playing catch with him out in the front yard. And
He loved that baseball too. He
Yeah.
taught all of his children to play sports.
I remember when, after they got married, we used to go watch him play softball. I remember one time we were down at that softball park down at
City Park.
7th and Kansas Avenue. And it was a night game, and Mike's team was playing another team. And the guy hit a ball into the outfield, and he ran from first to second, and he slid into second base, and when he did, they had a metal spike holding second base down, and the spike caught him just about the knee and tore a slice from his knee all the way to his buttocks. And the ambulances came, and I mean it was a big deal. That's of the many things that I remember about Mike. It's funny, the interesting little things that you remember. And I also remember that that Mike, when they first got married, he worked at Fairbanks and Moore's. And I suppose that that part of the struggle with them as a young married couple is that they started having children the same way that you and Dad did, and
Closer. She had 5 children in 5 years.
that was a lot of pressure both on him and a lot of pressure on her, and they were just kids themselves, because Ray was
9 years
he was
older.
9 years older, and I think that what Mike was probably about, he wasn't much older than Pat, was he?
No, he was 2 years older than Pat.
So Pat was 17 and he was 19. You remember where they lived when they first got married?
Yeah, in the little house.
They lived in the little house, huh?
Everybody lived in the little house until Bob.
Till Bob, huh?
Mhm.
I never lived in a little house.
No, almost. No, you moved down Normandale when you first got
No,
there.
I moved over on 59th Street over at Henry Miller's house.
What?
But Tom never lived in the little house, did he?
No, he didn't. They didn't. Let's see, just Dolores and Pat, I guess. And who else? Maybe that's all. Oh, Bobby. I know Bobby lived in there a long time.
But I guess, getting back to Pat, some of the things that I remember about her is she followed your mother around like a little pup, and
Mhm.
your mother taught her how to crochet and how to make povatitsa and sew, and I think the Pat was really an awful lot like your mother was, and even in looks. Was your mother and her close? I know that Pat was close
Oh,
to her.
yeah, they were real close. Yeah, they were real close. And, well, it was a good thing because, at that time, 2 years after she was born, you were born. after her.
Not me, Jean.
Jean. Yeah, Jean was born. And when you have children that close, you can't give them the love and affection that they need, because it's just too much.
Well, you can, I think.
Yeah, you can.
Because I remember, some of the things that, they kind of come in pairs, like, everybody, if you mention the name, it was Pat and Dolores were together.
Mhm.
And one of the comical things that I remember is that the car that Dad bought them to drive back and forth to Redemptor's, it was a 51 in the front and a 52
Well, no,
in the back.
that wasn't theirs. That was Bob and Tom's.
No.
What was it, Dolores?
It was Dolores. Tom and Bob were driving in 1951. But this car, you'd see it coming and you'd think it was a 51, and when you see it going, you'd think it was a 52. And they used to drive it back and forth to Redemptor's.
Yeah.
But they grew up, and then they left too. And, well, Dolores left, but Pat stayed and lived in the city.
Yeah, she lived in the little house until
A year or two?
Jimmy was born. Oh, the third. I think she had 3 children in that house. And then they moved let's see, what's the name of, next door to Betty Sigler. She's still my friend, Betty is.
They didn't move to that new house after they left. They did?
Yeah.
They only lived in 2 houses the whole time they were married?
All
huh?
the time they were married, yes.
Hmm. Wow. And, of course, one of the tragic things about, their first child was Marcia, and then, of course, Michael and Tom and Andy and Jimmy in between there. When Jimmy died, that was really hard on her, wasn't it?
Yes, because my mother died, and 6 weeks later Jimmy died. So that was both of her companions, her love. So.
And one of the things that we're going to do within this whole interview process is that we'll get an interview with Marcia and Michael and Tommy and Andy as they kind of understood their early childhood as well.
Well, the worst part about Mike was he could have been he was a wonderful father, because he played ball with those boys every night after he came home, but he was always looped.
He was alcohol.
Yeah.
It's hard to say how good a person he really would be. People's that when they get into alcohol become a different person. I know that once Mike finally decided to quit drinking, and he became a totally different person.
Yeah, but he was near death by that time.
No, Mike quit drinking 20 years ago.
No.
No, yes he did.
No, and he used to drink when he went was going with Dolores. Dolores,
Well,
his
my
wife.
recollection is he quit drinking about 15 or 20 years ago. He quit smoking about 5 years ago, but there was a long period before he died.
Well, maybe so.
Yeah,
I kind of lost track of him because
after he left Dolores, Pat, there
Yeah.
wasn't any reason. Okay, now you were living on the farm, and Pat and Dolores were graduating, and getting married, and going off, and Jean came along. What kind of a baby was Jean?
he was a good baby. He was quiet, and he was a religious person.
He was.
He always made altars to the Blessed Virgin. He always had. He loved flowers, and he loved everything beautiful. And he always had an altar with flowers
At
in
home?
in his room
Really?
to the Blessed Virgin. He did.
Okay.
Because all this was so hard for me to believe, when we found out what was wrong with him. Somehow or another, your dad knew, but I didn't. I would never accept it because he was so religious. And he served Mass from the time at Redemptor's, and every half an hour they'd change the Mass, and him and his dad went. His dad went with him every morning to Mass, the whole time, all the time he served. And so they were really the closest because of the church.
I see. Now, when we moved to the Gene had one real major love in life. What was it, remember? What was it?
Horses.
Horses.
Yes, because the horses got us on this farm, and I always hated horses and the farm. But I love it now. Long before this. Um,
So when Dad bought Gene the horse, that's what got us to the farm?
Yes, because Dolores and Pat and Jean, every Saturday, they would go Olathe, and at that time, from Kansas City, Missouri to Olathe, it was just on a bus ride, and they'd be gone all day, and it would be 9 o'clock at night, and I'd be waiting for them and crying because I didn't know where they were. I told your dad, either the horse goes or we're gonna have to split up because I can't stand this tension. I didn't know where my children were, so we started looking for a house then out in the country so we could keep the horse. So we found this place, and he said, well, I looked in the paper and I found a place that's only 7 miles from my business, and that's close to the dental lab, and I would like to go see the farm. And I said, well, I've got dinner already and the children are hungry. He said, well, don't worry, because this is an apple orchard and there's a lot of apples. They'll probably have a lot of apples there, which they did. Pitts had them already harvested, and they were in this white barn that's still standing there. And so when we got here, Mr. Pitts wasn't there, or Mrs. Pitts, only at that time, Mr. Pitts' sister lived here. That's who we bought the farm, because he had a nervous breakdown. He'd have a nervous breakdown if they didn't have a crop, and he'd have one if they had one, so that's what happened to him. So Wolves, they were Mr. and Mrs. Wolf. They gave the kids all some apples, says just help yourself, so they filled up on apples. And then everybody wanted to move to the farm because it was a beautiful place and it was all landscaped.
It was the most gorgeous place. I mean, it was
manicured.
You can't even imagine how, we don't have any pictures of the way that it was, but it was just like a garden, wasn't it, the whole place?
They always got first place in the garden show because everything was just perfect. They didn't have it, they were they weren't fortunate because she had 5 pregnancies, and not one of them, the one that lived the longest, I think, was 5 years or 3 years. All the children died. They didn't have any children, so everything was just meticulous. And when my children came, they couldn't touch anything. It was kind of hard for them, so I kept them out of the house because their house was the same way, with just absolutely, just like here, in our living room. But I said, well, I knew we weren't going to buy the farm because it only had 2 bedrooms in this little, but he wanted that farm so bad, and I said, no, I will not leave where I'm at. I like it. It's close for the children to school, and here, I said, you buy this place, and the children won't have any place to go to school. How are they going to go? So he made friends with Monsignor McKenna, and Monsignor said, well, I'm going to try to get the bus service there. So he promised him. He said, I promised a lot of the parishioners that I'd have a bus service for the children to go to school, which they never did do. And Myron says, well, we'll work it like this. Dolores and I'll take them, and they can go to Redemptress, and the rest of them will go to Christ the King. And then they can, I don't know how they came home, but
They walked, the bus took us to 59th Street and would walk from there. I think that in talking about Gene, you mentioned earlier, I don't think that it's any secret, and I hope that he doesn't mind if we talk a little bit about this on the tape, that that, you know, he's gay, and I don't have any ideas, you know, what time in his life that he decided that he was, but it was after he got out of dental school, really, I think.
No, he was in the service.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he got out of dental school, but Gene was always, you know, once again, he was kind of athletic in his own way. I mean, he was into gymnastics and all that kind of stuff, but he was a fabulous student too, wasn't he?
Yes, he was really a good student.
Was he, I understand he wasn't quite as good as Pat,
Not
but,
as quite as good as Pat, almost as good as Pat.
but he went to Ward, right? He was president of the pep club, and
He was the first board cheerleader in Ward that Ward ever had. And Dolly Dillich, she was in the cheerleading, and she voted him in. And he felt kind of backwards, but he loved to dance.
yeah, he was a dancing
Yeah.
fool.
Yeah, and he used to dance on
Bandstand.
Bandstand, which is
Mhm.
still going.
Yeah,
But,
he used to take me,
Dick-
and I used to love to dance too.
Too. Is what was it? Was Dick?
Dick Clark, yeah,
Dick
Dick Clark.
Clark.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, they had a version of it here in Kansas City where we used to go to, and I remember Gene used to take me dancing with him. We used to go to a place called Barry's Barn, and although Gene was 5 years older than I was, Gene was crazy about horses, and I was crazy about horses, and he used to use me as his training aid. He'd put me on the horse and would do jumping and stuff like that. So if anybody was going to get hurt, it would be me. But I was kind of up to it, I like to do that kind of stuff anyway. But
Well, talk about dancing. Your dad was a wonderful dancer. We won a lot of prizes dancing. And I love to dance. I guess we're a dancing family. But after you, I don't think Tom and Bob weren't dancers. They're still on. And neither are Tim or Mark.
Now, getting back to Gene, he went to Ward, and he graduated from Ward. He was top of his class. Did he get a scholarship?
I don't
Benedictine?
think so. I don't think so. Why? But he did go to St. Benedict's, but
Right.
I don't think he did.
No. And he went a couple of years up there before he...
Decided to be, because he wanted to be